Hello, I'm Mrs. Neill, and this is Mrs. Neill Geometry Lesson 14, Triangle Inequalities. If you take 3 straws that are 8 inches, 4 inches, and 3 inches in length, can you use these straws to form a triangle? Well, here I've got my 3 lengths right here. This is 8 inches, 4 inches, and 3 inches. If you notice, I cannot do that because these end up laying right on top of the longest side. So what we're doing with triangle inequalities, the lengths have to be a certain length in order to create a triangle. So what would I do here? I either have to shorten my longest side, which was 8 inches, or make either one of those bigger. Well, let's make one of these bigger. So instead of a 3 inch, I'm going to use a 4 inch side. So now I've got 4 inches, 4 inches, and 8 inches. Is that going to be able to create a triangle? Let's see. Okay, if you notice, I need to bring them in. And I'm bringing them in and bringing them in until they actually lie flat right on top of the 8 inch. So 2 4 inch lengths were not enough to create a triangle. So what I would have to do is either shorten the long side of 8 inches, or I could make one of these bigger. Well, I'm going to make one of these bigger, and I'm going to use a 5 inch piece. So right here, if you notice, I've got a 4 inch, a 5 inch, and an 8 inch. Now will I be able to create a triangle? Let's see. As I bring these in, you notice these create a vertex, and I'm able to do that. So that leads to our rule for today. The sum of the measures of any 2 sides of a triangle is greater than the measure of the 3rd side. So these 2 sides, if you add them up, you get 9, and that adds up to 8. So the sum of these 2 sides was bigger than the 3rd side. Okay, let's look at these 2 sides, 4 and 8. That adds up to 12. Is that larger than the 3rd side of 5? Yes, it is. So let's take these 2 right here. If I have 8 and 5, that makes 13. Is that larger than the 3rd side of 4? Yes, it is. So if you take 2 of the sides, it has to be larger than the 3rd side. So pick 2, add them up, and it's got to be bigger than the 3rd side. So let's look at an example. Determine whether it is possible to draw a triangle with sides of the given measures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up 2 sides, and it's got to be bigger than the 3rd one. So 15 plus 12 is 27. Is that larger than 9? Yes, it is. Okay, pick 2 more sides. How about 15 and 9? Add those 2 sides together. That gets me 24. Is that larger than the 3rd side of 12? Yes, it is. Okay, keep going. The other 2 sides, 12 plus 9, that's 21. Is that greater than the 3rd side of 15? Yes, it is. So I went through all cases of being able to determine whether this would be able to make a triangle. And we said yes, yes, yes to all of them. So yes, I can create a triangle with those 3 sides right there. Now if you notice, this is kind of a long way to do it. But let me show you a shortcut method. Instead of going through each one of those separately, what we can do is take a shortcut method. And what that does is just add up the lengths of the 2 smaller sides, and if the sum of their lengths is greater than the length of the largest side, then it's a triangle. So let's do the shortcut. I'm going to take the 2 smaller sides, which is the 3 and the 6 here. I'm going to add them up, and that gets me 9. Is 9 greater than the 3rd side of 8? If it is yes, yes, I can create a triangle right there. Okay, let's do the shortcut method again. 9 plus 15 is 24. Oh, let me put 9 and then plus 15 is equal to 24. Is that greater than the 3rd side of 26? No, it's not. So what we found out here, using the shortcut method, if I had lengths of 9, 15, and 26 units, I would not be able to put those together to create a triangle. Okay, now we need to look at a range of values, because if I have a triangle here, and I've got one side that's 5, let's say, and one side that's 3. If you notice, if I open it up really big, I've got to have a length right here. Now that's going to be a pretty long third side. What if I bring it in and my angle is smaller? That's got to be a shorter side. So when you have two sides, what's the range? How do you find the range of the length of the third side right there? Okay, let me show you how to find that. So if you're given two sides of a triangle, find the range of values for this third side. The first thing you want to do is subtract these two numbers together and get one number value, and then add those two numbers together, and those two values will give you your range. So let's subtract 5 minus 3, and we get 2. And let's add 5 plus 3, and we get 8. So my range of values for my third side is going to be between 2 and 8. So let's look at that. It's got to be a little bit bigger than 2, and it's got to be a little smaller than 8. So in order to do that, it's got to be a little bit bigger than 2 and a little bit smaller than 8. So what's a number between 2 and 8? How about 4? Let's try a 4-inch piece. So if I have a 4-inch piece right there, will I be able to make a triangle? Let's see what we can do here. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, so here's the 3 and here's the 5-inch, and then with a 4-inch side, we would be able to create a triangle. 4 is between 2 and 8, so we'd be able to do that. Let's just do one more example. What if I have two lengths of 8 and 6? Okay, so subtract, that gives me 2, add them together, and that's 14. So if I had a triangle that had a length of 8, a length of 6, my third length could be anywhere between 2 and 14. So it's got to be a little bit bigger than 2 and a little bit smaller than 14 to be able to pick a third side. Okay, let's go on. Let's go to one other concept I want to go over today on triangle inequalities. If I have got two sides of a triangle, okay, let me just show you this example here. I've got a 4-inch and a 5-inch. If you notice, depending on how much it's opened, how big this angle is right here will determine how long this side is. If you notice, if I've got them really wide open, I've got to have a longer side. So big angle, opposite, long side. What if I bring this in a whole lot right there? Okay, what about the side? Is it still going to be, am I still going to need a long side? No, I am not. I'm going to need a shorter side. So there I go, something shorter than that longer one there. So smaller angle, shorter side. So let's look at our rule now. The angle with the greatest measure is opposite the side with the greatest measure. So big angle, long side. And the side with the greatest measure is opposite the angle with the greatest measure. That's basically looking at the converse of what we just said. So if I have a really wide angle, what am I going to have? A really wide or very long side. Okay, so let's finish up our lesson today with two examples. We want to name in order from smallest to largest what the triangles are. What the lengths of the sides are. We want to name the sides in order from small or short to long. The triangles are not drawn to scale. All right, so I've got 1, 2, I need the measure of that angle. So remember, I take 180, I subtract 70, subtract 60, and I've got 50 degrees. Okay, so I'm going from small to large. So make sure you put them in the right order. Make sure you read the directions carefully. So this is going to be my smallest angle. So what do you think about the side opposite that? That's going to be my smallest or my shortest side. So here's my short side. That's going to be side GH. How about the 60-degree angle? I want the medium, and then I want the longest, or largest. Largest or longest means the same thing. So the medium would go over here, and what side is that? GI. Okay, last one. What's my biggest angle? It's going to be opposite my biggest or my longest side, which is HI. There we go. So that's the order of those triangle inequalities. Let's look at one more example. This is our final example. Name the angles. Now we're naming angles in order from largest to smallest. Make sure you read directions and put them in the right order. So I'm going large, and then medium, and then small. So I'm going to label them so I make sure I do this right. So where's my longest side? The longest side is opposite the angle with the greatest measure. So that looks like 1.7 right there. And that's going to be angle H. Okay, what's my medium side? It's 1.3. It's going to be opposite the medium side's angle, which is angle G. Okay, and then finally, this is 1. That's going to be the smallest or the shortest side. And it's opposite angle I. Okay, there we go. That's triangle inequalities. I'm Mrs. Neill. Thank you for listening.